Okay, let's jump right in. This video is going to be broken down into 4 parts. What creatine is, how it's made, how safe is it, and do you actually need to take it? So most people already know what creatine is, so I'm going to try and keep this bit relatively short and sweet. It's one of the most well-researched supplements in the world, with hundreds or even, I think, thousands now of peer-reviewed studies on it. I haven't read through them all. Creatine helps you recycle your energy. So essentially when you're doing some form of high intensity of activity like sprinting or weightlifting, your body burns through ATP, which is its main form of energy currency. When ATP runs out, you fatigue and you're done. What creatine does is it stores phosphate molecules within your muscles, which helps it regenerate more ATP, gives it a couple more extra reps before failure sets in. That's why it's obviously perfect for high intensity activities like weightlifting. So, a 2017 review by the Journal of International Society of Sports Nutrition found consistent gains in both strength and lean mass compared to training alone. And recently, many studies have actually gone beyond the gym. A 2024 Frontier in Nutrition meta-analysis found that creatine can improve memory and reduce attention task completion time, suggesting it supports energy metabolism in the brain in the same way it does in the muscle. Hey guys, just editing the video, wanted to jump right in. I completely glossed over a point, is that in that study it actually says no significant improvements were found on overall cognitive function. Creatine cognitive research is very much in its infancy, and there's a lot more that still needs to be done, but we do have a lot of strong positive indicators that are pointing us in the direction that creatine does have some benefits, mentally speaking. Okay, with that, back to the video. My bad, guys. So yeah, creatine isn't actually just a gym supplement anymore. It's a molecule that helps fuel how your brain and your body perform, but that's kind of stuff that everybody already knew. Let's move on to how it's actually made. So creatine isn't extracted from animals, it's not harvested, it's not mined, it's just made in a lab. You take 2 ingredients, sodium sarcosinate and cyanamide. Sodium sarcosinate is somewhat similar to salt, but contrary to that, it's actually not salty. Cyanamide is something you hopefully use every day. It's in your toothpaste. If you don't use it every day, it's kind of strange, but anyway, moving on. What you do is you take these 2 ingredients, you heat them from the patents that I've read and understand to somewhere between 50 and 90 degrees Celsius at slight alkaline conditions between pH 9 and 10. After this, it comes out as like a thick liquid slurry, so it needs to undergo multiple stages of purification. After that, it has to be crystallized and eventually milled down into a very, very fine powder, which is what you know as the creatine that's probably in your supplement jar somewhere around you now. China, like everything it is the leading exporter for creatine. This isn't to, shun down Creapure in Europe, who pride themselves on their quality and their sheer purity of creatine. From what I know, they're one of the very, very, very few Western or European suppliers. Most of the supply comes from China, and this is really, really, really reflected in the export numbers, that China absolutely dominates the industry in this field. So more than likely, the creatine you consume on a daily basis does come from China rather than Creapure in Germany. Oh yeah, and just to make it clear, I actually don't know the exact production volume of Creapure or the Chinese suppliers. I'm basing this purely off the export figures and just comparing them that way. So how safe is creatine actually? Well, according to the decades of research we have, it's shockingly safe. It seems to be one of the few supplements that gets better the more we look into it. The only adverse effect people tend to see is weight gain, and that's just because it's pulling water into your muscles. It's not fat, it's not bloat, it's not any of that stuff, it's just your muscles hydrating more. one of the biggest long-term safety reviews published by the Journal of the International Society of Sports Nutrition, looked at the short and long-term creatine use across all kinds of people: infants, teenagers, adults, the elderly, and even some clinical populations. And the dosages they studied weren't exactly small either. They were looking at between 0.3 to 0.8 grams per kilogram a day for up to 5 years straight. And interestingly, across all the data they found, there was no evidence of kidney damage, liver stress, or any major adverse effects. And here's something new. Some research is now suggesting that you take 3 grams of creatine a day, not just for the short-term use, but across your entire lifetime, just because of the benefits it brings. So it's moving away from just being a gym supplement and moving towards being a general health supplement. So, do you need creatine? The honest answer is no. If you're an average person with average fitness goals and you consume a sufficient amount of meat or fish, your body already produces creatine on a daily basis, and you're topping that up through your diet. On the other hand, your body can't produce an infinite amount of creatine. So if you perhaps follow a vegan diet or vegetarian diet, you don't consume much meat or fish, then your baseline creatine level is naturally going to be lower, which makes supplementing it much more compelling. This is reflected in the research because we see that people who supplement in creatine, who follow these diets, typically see greater improvements in their strength and cognitive ability. Moreover, if you're not an average person and you don't have average fitness goals, you want to recover faster, you want to lift stronger, and you want to put on more muscle, then creatine becomes very, very compelling. It's cheap, readily available, and from the decades of research, we know it works. So, just to summarize, do you need to take creatine for your everyday health if you're an average person? Absolutely not. But if you want an edge that's very hard to ignore, that's well researched, that's well documented, that's proven, then yes, 100%, take creatine.